Kitulese gwe mulowooza. So, ladies and gentlemen of the press, I welcome you to this press conference. I want to start by expressing my sympathies to the National Resistance Movement. I learned that they lost their chairman for Kayunga, Mr. Kalangwa. We convey our condolences. When I was preparing for this press conference, we had a chat with my wife, and she said, you know, she's a Ugandan and also British. So she said, I want you to have a British-style press conference. That I should come and make a 5-minute statement and go away, the way you see on BBC. Then I told her that, you know, we are Africans. In Africa, there's no time limit for a discussion. You sit and discuss until the matter is resolved. But for the Europeans, they say, we must agree in 30 minutes. We must agree in 1 hour. That's why you see they cannot solve their problems. Even that's why the war in Iran is not ending. Because they go for a conference and they say, this conference is going to take 2 hours. Because they don't understand human nature. But for us Africans, if there is a land dispute, we don't have opposition and the government. We don't have witnesses for the accused person. We don't have witnesses for the accuser. We solve the problem collectively. So everybody is a witness for everybody. Even if the accused person is saying something which is correct, a person who has been supporting the accuser will say, yes, 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 you have said the right thing. I agree with you. Because the purpose is to solve the problem and to restore harmony. So this conference is about harmony in Uganda. I hope you never skipped that mathematics lesson called sets. You know, in sets, you must know what is the set and the subset. You must know the intersection. So this press conference is about the intersection. In other words, what we all agree on as Ugandans. It is not about what we disagree on. So despite rejecting my wife's advice about a short statement, I've at least taken one advice. She said, be in time. So when you see her, you should thank her. Because today I'm in time. This press conference is either going to make me or unmake me. Whatever I'm going to say here is either going to make me or unmake me. But whatever I'm going to say here is true. And whatever I'm going to say here is what I believe to be true. When I tell people I'm going to be the best speaker Uganda has ever had, the next question is, how? I said the same thing when I first addressed this subject. about odds. I know some of you like betting, and I'm sure you've been betting on the Premier League. And there are many of you who have lost badly. Actually, you have already lost. Most people have already lost. So, I told you that my odds are different. My odds are not the odds of other people. Because when you see my history, nobody has ever given me a chance to win, including becoming president of DP. Nobody thought it was possible because the mathematics was not there. They said DP is a Buganda Catholic party. I'm not a Muganda. Though I'm baptized a Catholic, my family roots are Protestant. So everybody dismissed me. But here I am. When I went to the elections for parliament, we also faced the problem of stock MPR, new stock. But I think Ugandans don't just want a competition between the new stock and the old stock. They want the right stock. Even if you are new, if you are the wrong stock, you are not going to help people. Like I read somewhere, those of us who have been in politics for long and those who are new, we should not be fighting. Because when you start a fight between the present and the past, you lose the future. All of us are focusing on the future. Our focus is not what is going to happen on the 25th. Our focus is what sort of parliament we shall have in the 5 years. Just like there's a difference between a wedding day and a marriage. You can have a great wedding and a terrible marriage. So, let us not reduce this discussion to who will win the speakership. The discussion is who will best deliver what the citizens of Uganda want. Why do people ask how I will become speaker? The only thing that in their mind disqualifies me is that I am not NRM. They have doubts of my victory, not because of what I am, but because of what I am not. Isn't it funny? Instead of saying we can't elect him because he is this, they are saying we can't elect him because he is not this. But that logic cannot apply in the crisis in which we are. Parliament faces a crisis of confidence as I talk. Who can restore the confidence of the citizens of Uganda in the parliament? You saw what has happened. I'm sure some of you are shocked by the conduct of your members of parliament. They are moving like this. They are being swayed by the wind. Is that really leadership? There's a saying that only dead fish flow with the water. A fish which is alive decides which direction it is going. Even when the water is flowing in the opposite direction, the fish says, I'm going that way. So we have now the danger of having a political environment of dead fish that are swinging in all sorts of directions. I already told you earlier, of the member of parliament elected to the 12th parliament who was attacking me on social media when I mentioned the famous Rolls-Royce, which unfortunately has now been degraded. I've seen it on a breakdown from Katwe. I mean, the makers of Rolls-Royce must be embarrassed. That's not how they transport a Rolls-Royce in the UK. It is put on a nice flat bed, even covered with a car cover, and then driven by people who are even wearing uniform and overalls. Ekitiibwa kya Rolls-Royce bakivodde nnyo. It is like going to dig in a wedding dress. Can you imagine going to the Lusuku in a Kadali? I think all the brides in the world will just say, if that's the case, we are not going to wear it again. But why is it happening? Because there is a crisis of confidence. So, I am not NRM, given. I am DP. DP is a historical party, the oldest party in Uganda, with a clear history and clear principles. The next question. If not being NRM is a disqualification for a high office in Uganda today, in a government led by the NRM, why have I been a cabinet minister? Yet, I remain DP. I take you back to the cooperation we have with the NRM. Under Article 1F, which is the principles of the cooperation, we stated that the parties commit to working in the best interests of Uganda and Ugandans, working to honor the national motto, for God and my country, and building and maintaining public confidence in the integrity of governance processes. So, who has the final say in the matter of who becomes Speaker? I'm asking these questions because if you ask the wrong questions, then you'll definitely get the wrong answer. I've already said logically that there is a crisis. If you're very sick, are you going to ask about the political party, the tribe, or the religion of the doctor who can cure you? At that moment, that is irrelevant. But here we are having a discussion by relatives of a patient who is about to die about the religion, tribe, and political party of the doctor who is supposed to save the life of this parliament. That kind of thinking is the thinking that has brought problems to Uganda in the past. Fortunately, leadership must be about objectives. And when we came into an agreement with the NRM, we established a framework for Uganda, not just a framework for DP and NRM, a framework for Uganda. And the three things we said: that we would consolidate and strengthen existing constructive and enduring working relationship between the parties in the areas of political dialogue, justice, rule of law, and constitutionalism, based on mutual respect, reciprocity, common interest, and respect for the sovereignty and independence of the parties. 2, to provide a comprehensive framework for promoting understanding, encouraging contact, results-oriented dialogue, and cooperation. And thirdly, to strengthen political relations and promote exchanges and mutual understanding on issues of common and national interest. I repeat, who has the final say on the question of the position of Speaker? Norbert Mao says the party that should have the final say is called Uganda. You heard what the president said in Chankwanzi. And the president is not only the president of Uganda, he is also the chairman of the ruling party, National NRM. But people are responding to all sorts of messages from all sorts of quarters. Fortunately, all these things are undressing people. By the time this week is over, Ugandans will know who exactly can lead them. There will be a difference between leaders and masqueraders. So, people are eating their words. Comedians are having a field day. I saw one pretending to be making phone calls on behalf of the PA of the former speaker, calling all her great friends, and the phones are either busy or they are not available. Others are now trying to do what you call revisionism. They are trying to sanitize. They are saying, what has Mao done anyway? Every Ugandan has been in this struggle. It is not just Mao. I won't argue with that. They are saying Mao has not done anything over and above what Ugandans have done. I've been hearing that, I've been seeing it. Because there are those who think, I like Butala. I have enough Butala. They are saying, everybody has condemned the rot in Parliament. I accept that. And I give credit to those who have exposed it, particularly the civil society. The exhibitionists, the activists on social media, those who have been on X Spaces and so on. But those who are making this statement are saying Mao has not played any unique role. Indeed, even the president, we have now seen letters where the president has been ordering investigations. What has Mao done which is special? Everybody has been condemning the road. Okay, let's look at it this way. When Al-Shabaab started attacking the countries of East Africa, everybody condemned it, isn't it? But was that enough to send a message to Al-Shabaab to stop? Why is UPDF being praised? All these regions have armies. All of them have spokespersons who were condemning Al-Shabaab. But it is the UPDF which said, this must end. We can't go on like this. Let's go. And they stormed Somalia. What did they do? They took action. You can also condemn corruption while watching TV. You can also write an article. You can be a commentator. You know, I used to have a guard. Long ago, there was a guard. You know these guards with arrows? I had a guard. At that time, we had a son who was still a baby. So one day, the guard came and said, "Boss, a snake has entered the garage. This is the person I employ to guard my home." He is instead giving a situation report. Instead of telling me a snake entered, I killed it. Because that's his job. He looked for me and said a snake has entered the garage. In the garage, we had a pile of wood. Obviously, there's no way we would find a snake. Remember, he is the guard. I had to start telling him, snakes don't like the smell of petroleum products. Take this money and buy some little diesel. Come and pour it over the pile of wood. The snake will come out. That's how the snake came out, and we killed it. But in the meantime, we were worried. What if the snake has entered the bedroom where our baby was sleeping? Ladies and gentlemen, action is what makes a difference, not commentators. Uganda has the highest number of commentators per capita. Everybody has an opinion on how something can be solved. So between those who were analyzing the origins of Al-Shabaab, how it became strong, and the UPDF, which gathered their weapons and headed to Somalia, in which we even lost many. Even we had helicopters crashing. Between our UPDF and the commentators, who are the heroes of the anti-terrorist campaign against Al-Shabaab? Another example. Everybody condemned the rigging of the 1980 elections against UPC. Even my own glorious party. They held press conferences and condemned the rigging. They condemned Paul Mwanga. They won, by the way. I've said here before why I believe DP won. I spoke to the late President, Dr. Semo Gerere, President of our party, and I asked him, why are you so sure that our party won? And he told me he got a phone call from Mr. Vincent Sekono, Secretary of Electoral Commission at that time, congratulating him for winning. So the elections were rigged. Everybody was outraged. But it was that small group with their 27 guns that said, we can't go on like this. And they took off to the bush. They are here now in power for more than 40 years. While the experts in press conferences and analysis are still continuing to analyze. So what did Norbert Mao do, which went beyond the analysis and comments? The problem we were dealing with was the problem of an individual occupying an office. There was a need for somebody to threaten that office in a credible manner. You all know Newton's first law. A body will continue in the same state of motion until another force acts on it. So the same state of motion was going to continue in Parliament. You saw the endorsements. Even those who are now saying they are now opposing the corruption. Unfortunately, the internet doesn't forget. Imagine their grandchildren. You know, we have now known the two categories of politicians, the vertebrates and invertebrates. You remember your biology lesson? Invertebrates are the what? Those without a spine and a backbone. Ebisani. And those that can stand straight with a backbone. So now, when you are looking at a politician, first ask yourself, is this one an invertebrate or a vertebrate? The same applies for speaker. You need a speaker who is an invertebrate or a vertebrate. Again, back to physics, there was inertia. Do you know how much force you need to overcome inertia? I didn't do it alone. But I had to step forward and say, let's go. Someone must say, let's go. We provided the spark. So, there was, and there is now evidence of, abuse of office. Everybody condemned the abuse. But nobody threatened to remove the office from the abuser of the office, except Norbert Mao. Nobody threatened that office more than Mao. There were others, of course, who stepped forward and spoke a lot of things. But my candidature was the most serious and the most credible. In the same way that in 1980-81, there were many forces that tried to take on the UPC government. But there was one which was most serious and most credible. There was inertia. My candidacy for speaker rallied Ugandans, created momentum which overcame the inertia. Now, as we talk, this brings to mind what I saw the former editor-in-chief and managing editor of the Monitor wrote on X, Charles Onyango Bo. He was quoting a Nigerian proverb which says that the world is unfair. Mao is the person who should be speaker because he led this fight with maximum risk, not only to his life, but even the life of his family. I told you before, I was being warned, you are going to be poisoned, you are going to be ambushed, you are going to die. That did not stop me. And now he says that the world is unfair. The Nigerians say, monkey, they do the work, baboon, they chop. But I see it differently. We remained steady. I was like a lion leading the hunt, tackling a fierce beast. Of course, the hyenas and jackals were taking cover. Because you are watching how the fight is going first. Because if the lion does not win the fight, then what can you, a hyena, do? While the lion fought, the hyenas were taking cover, showing their faces once in a while to see how it is going. Not daring even to step forward. Not even supporting any side. When the signal came that the beast had been subdued, then they sprang into action to feast. But I want to tell you, fellow Ugandans, even if a hyena eats the food of the lion, it doesn't become a lion. It remains a hyena. That's what we call scavenger politics. Our history has parallels of scavenger politics. And I'm going to use one which is not very flattering, but I promised you I'm going to speak the truth. And I also want to be on the right side of history. As a matter of fact, I'd rather be on the right side of history than to be the speaker. If I have a choice between, why should I be a speaker when I'm on the wrong side of history? I'd rather be on the wrong side of history and miss the position of speaker. So let me share with you the parallel in our history of scavenger politics. By 1985, the UPC government that had rigged the elections was severely weakened by the pressure, military pressure of the NRA. The NRA was there in the bush putting military pressure. And that gave an opportunity for the generals that were part of the Uganda National Liberation Army, the government army, to scavenge on the government. So they took over power. But the coup makers could not sustain the government. The pressure had been put by other people. These ones took advantage of the situation and entered into government. A government they could not sustain. Now, this is what I call the politics of improvisation. That's the same thing I'm seeing. There's improvisation going on. In football, even substitutes must have been in the training camp. You don't just say, is there any footballer in the crowd? Come and wear this shirt. The people who sit on the substitutes bench must be people who are mentally prepared. As I said, the NRA had weakened UPC. The generals in the government army took advantage and overthrew the government. They could not sustain it. Eventually, the real torchbearers of the people's cause came to the fore to take charge of the change they had precipitated. That's why I'm telling Ugandans, it's a matter of time. Sometimes you can be anointed, but you don't even assume the position immediately. I think David was anointed, but for 17 years he was running for his life. Can you imagine? You are with the anointing, but you can't access the throne because of forces. Even Uganda has so many forces right now. But we must not fear them because this country is going to change, whether anybody likes it or not. I see things differently, and I'm not complaining because, unlike others, I don't have any sense of entitlement. But I believe in destiny. So today, I want to say that no one has the final word. Even God, by the way, still has something to say about this speakership. And he's going to speak. And God can whisper into important ears. the truth. And he's going to do it. God still has a statement to make about this. I told you this before, because you people were looking like those armies that faced Goliath. I even told you about David and Goliath that day here. But you are not listening because you are terrified. You are looking with fear. And I defined for you what fear is. That fear means false evidence appearing real. F-E-A-R. Haven't you proved that it is now right? All the money was actually false evidence. All these material things were false evidence. All the endorsements were false evidence appearing real. But for you, you were thinking that that is the reality. But it was only appearing to be the reality. I have preached from this podium. Sometimes I feel like a pastor. But Ugandans don't listen. What is truly mine will come to me in due course. My destiny will unfold. Because destiny indicates a destination. And it is a matter of time. And what is truly mine will be that place which is the best for me. To our allies in the NRM, the speakership is not just a matter for the NRM. It's not just a matter for the members elected to the 12th Parliament. It's a matter for all citizens. Since the MPs represent the citizens, they cannot ignore the public sentiment. I'm calling upon all Ugandans from now onwards, call your member of parliament and tell them to vote for Mao. If not, wait for them in 2031 and remind them. What my candidature offers is a sharp contrast to the false dichotomy that members of opposing parties are disjoint sects. Instead, my candidature offers a choice for us to move forward together as partners to achieve the promise of a new Uganda, united, free, peaceful, and prosperous. To my friends in the NRM and to President Museveni, let us reclaim the spirit of 1986. Because at this point, we cannot afford to improvise. Why do I speak of the spirit of 1986? In 1986, the NRM and the DP were in a partnership. That partnership lasted for 10 years. That partnership was not accidental. After all, the party that had been cheated was DP. It was not UPM. The UPM did not have votes to steal. They even only got one member of parliament. Today we are being laughed at that we have 6 members of parliament. Please read your history also. The majority of those who died in the war that brought the NRM into power were DPs. Those skulls and bones in Luwero are DPs. Sometimes I'm shocked by how recklessly the DP members talk. Because they're only looking at Mere ya Lero. I see them on TV. Mao yafuna nze tafuna. Am I the one who gives the position? Mao yagaveli for. If I were the one appointing ministers, you would blame me. But instead of thanking me for even keeping the door open, your only problem is okufuna mu. We have seen so many people who have kufuna mu. Even in a meantime, there are people who went and they kufunad. You can even kufuna from a witch doctor. You can kufuna from it. But it is not about kufuna. Others are saying, all that Mao is doing is negotiating for a position. That is not my intention. I don't think I would take all the risk I've taken. Actually, the best way to negotiate for a position would have been to be one of the endorsers. And I would have been the chief endorser. And this story would have been different if I had become an endorser. Do you think I didn't have a choice to be an endorser? I had a choice to be a chief endorser. And probably I would now be negotiating the next deal. But I stuck my neck out. We cannot choose leaders through improvisation. Fortunately, these few weeks we have seen a lot. We have now realized that actually maturity does not come with age. I've seen old people acting like adolescents. Even kindergarten kids have shown more understanding of issues. But because of shamelessness, they are now trying to explain. If you have made a wrong decision, first of all, admit that you are wrong. Quickly. And then, preferably, first keep quiet. I saw the endorsers, the way they flocked to Mukono the other day, hugging everyone that was there. And I'm sure they have now blocked the other number now. I'm a politician, but even me, I'm shocked. That's why I said we have now realized that maturity does not come with age. When I was last here, I told you that we had already won the spiritual war. In other words, just as David faced Goliath, Goliath was already dead in the spirit. Even the former speaker was already defeated in the spirit by the time I announced. The spirit had already fallen. What we saw falling the other day by way of the letter of withdrawal was merely the body following the spirit. The spirit was long dead. Because we believe in prayer. And I have said God still has something to say about this. And you people are going to be shocked. I'm going to come back here next week. Because the election is on Monday. On Tuesday, I'm going to come here. Unfortunately, I won't be wearing that horse hair. Those are going to be among the first changes of decolonization. This is a very hot country. We're in the tropics. Even in Britain, they no longer wear it. I think the last person, it was this lady, Boothroyd, who abandoned it. They don't wear it now. So, put in your calendar, Mao press conference on Tuesday as Speaker of Parliament. This has to happen so that you people can know that this is about you. Chiamba mwe. So I came this morning to reiterate my resolve to continue my efforts to persuade the country and the members of the 12th Parliament that of all those that have expressed their interest and those being interested in the position of Speaker, I am the one most suitable for such a time as this. I'm not in the business of a two-term speaker. For me, I'm for this time, for such a time as this. So we are simply saying, this time, Mao. This time, Mao. Secondly, this press conference is also intended to declare that I intend to continue engaging the NRM in order that my candidature is considered alongside any other candidatures of those MPs who are members of NRM. On the basis of the cooperation we have. Remember, in the first 5 minutes of the President's inaugural address at Kololo Ceremonial Grounds, he praised the Democratic Party alongside the Uganda People's Congress for being a positive force in uniting our country. What President Museveni and I are doing, others want to scatter. Tuzimba bazimbulula. Fe tukunganya, bo basasanya. I know the role of the speaker. I don't have to repeat that. I know what it is like to moderate debate. I've been an advocate since 1994. Now 32 years on the role of advocates. So, what is the thinking behind my insistence that the NRM has a lot to gain by rallying behind me? Because I understand the challenges. I don't know how many of you have read President Museveni's book, What is Africa's Problem? Today I ask, what is Uganda's problem? Okay, we can say corruption, poverty, and so on. The candidate being interested in the position of speaker and I are answers to different questions. We used to have a priest in Makerere who told us of the time he went to America and he found people wearing T-shirts on which the following words were written: Jesus is the answer. Then he asked, what is the question? So, if you say Mao is the answer to the crisis in Parliament, what is the question? Remember, I'm currently the chairman of IPOD, which I believe in. IPOD is the body which brings together members of all the parties to carry out dialogue on how to solve the problems of Uganda. Later I will explain in very serious terms the thinking. I have been insulted more than anyone else for preaching unity across parties. Every day I've been insulted for serving as a minister. Now those who have been insulting me are lobbying to be ministers. Even members of DP, the DP members who held the press conference and even broke my portrait in Parliament, they are the ones who accompanied Honorable Nsibambi to State House. When the time for photos came, they ran away. Why do you do something you don't believe in? What is the difference between me, who goes openly, and you, who is in hiding? In fact, you are more of a thug. when I announced that I was going to be Speaker, even members of my own party descended on me. They prophesied. And now the prophecy is in the dustbin. So, let me explain why I believe that the NRM should rally their support for Norbert Mao. Because the agreement we have is fundamental. We have been faithful to our part of the agreement as DP. We have served faithfully. The NRM has not kept all its commitments, and many times I'm being attacked from within my own party. They say, we were supposed to get another position. You are there alone. What are you doing there? What are you doing about this? I've written so many letters. I've raised these issues with the president. Even when the opportunity came and there was a reshuffle and other people who were out of cabinet were brought in, DP was still ignored. So the question is, if the unity of Uganda is the precondition for tackling the problems we face, then why should we undermine unity by saying that now you are NRM? That is the reason why the president invited me to Chankwanzi. Against the wishes of Mama Rolls Royce.
She's now in the garden.
I was being told to stay in the compound and not even approach the so-called bedroom. So, I was invited to Chankwanzi. That should give you a signal that the president is serious about the nucleus of the unity. You can have unity. You can have unity with other political parties. You can invite members of the opposition to meet with them. But everything must have a nucleus. And the DP-NRM cooperation is the nucleus of the broader unity of Ugandans as we make that leap forward. It is not about positions. It's about what we want to achieve. So let us raise now the 4 fundamental expectations our citizens have, which any government, no matter who is the leader, has to respond to. Number 1, unity of the country. This is what we call the national question. The national question, as I talked about the last time, is how to bring diverse peoples, different languages, tribes, even interests, together in one nation. Julius Nyerere did it in Tanzania. How can you resolve the national question when politicians are fighting? The second is to ensure peace, security, and tranquility. The third is to ensure economic advancement of the people. The fourth is to ensure democracy in all its dimensions. There is no likelihood that any political party would tell the electorate that it does not believe in unity, peace, development, and democracy. We can therefore assume that all leaders, irrespective of their political affiliation, would aim to work for these fundamentals. The movement system, you remember it, which many of us opposed, perhaps prematurely, attempted to deal with a major contradiction or a distortion, namely that despite all the parties claiming to be promoting the same fundamentals, yet every 5 years the voters are required to select on the basis of some superficial differences a party to perform the tasks that in fact all the parties agree should be done. If all the parties in Uganda, DP, UPC, NRM, NUP, PFF, and so on, all agree that we need unity, peace, development, and democracy, then the question is, what are we thinking when we go into the elections and we say, all these people agree on what needs to be done, but you choose one of them? So, the movement system was based on putting aside the party labels in order to allow the electorate to choose the best individuals. I don't think we are yet even 20%, including fighting corruption. I agree that the greatest vulnerability of the parliament today, is not only the appearance of corruption, but the reality of it. Therefore, if we are to consolidate the institutional power of the parliament, we have to not only focus on the problems in the delivery of services, enforcing laws, and representing the public interest, but also to fight corruption. There are many reasons why corruption has to be fought. Since our biggest challenge is underdevelopment, we have to tackle impediments to development. Corruption is the biggest impediment to development. Corruption impedes economic development in a number of ways. When officials with political power demand bribes, resources go into private pockets instead of being channeled towards production. This becomes a great distortion of economic incentives. Corruption is also a kind of regressive tax upon the population. All countries have petty corruption. You know, the type which is carried out by poorly paid officials. But the largest amount of stolen money goes into the pockets of elites who use their power to divert resources meant for the general population. Public officials who seek payoffs in the form of bribes in order to do their work waste a lot of time and delay projects. Wealth creators spend valuable time chasing officials to make decisions instead of focusing on running their businesses. At the same time, officials spend most of their time in a kind of gamesmanship to seek private gain at public expense. This is what economists call rent-seeking. We reject the belief that bribery fosters efficiency by acting as a lubricant to incentivize officials to act quickly in processes such as land transactions, registration of businesses, securing licenses, and getting appointments with high-level officials. We reject this school of thought and believe that procedures should be simple and straightforward. Red tape should be eliminated, and every individual should have equal access to government. Corruption can also undermine political order, because where there is a general perception that officials and politicians are corrupt, the legitimacy of the government declines in the eyes of the common people, and the sense of trust that is critical if the state is to run will collapse. To borrow the word of President Trump, I am here to drain the swamp. We must stop the hemorrhage of public resources. That is the key task of the next Speaker of Parliament. So, I propose a diagnostic endeavor to carry out a forensic audit of Parliament, the finances, assets, streamlining workforce issues such as recruitment, remuneration, promotion, capacity building. That is why today I celebrate our brave and public-spirited effort to stop individual power from overtaking institution power in Parliament. Electing the right speaker for the right time is only the beginning of the work that we have. We have to restore integrity. That is why my candidacy is not simply a political challenge to the parliamentary status quo. It's a moral challenge. As the President said in Chankwanzi, the final verdict is with the members of the 12th Parliament. Anybody else can only recommend. We need humility. If the President of Uganda can say, we have made our recommendations, then what is the point of having an election? But more importantly, power must be driven by purpose.